Welcome to the new My Football Club podcast. Hello and welcome to the new My Football Club podcast. I'm your host, Augustine Sasso. You can email me at augustine.sasso@myfootballclub.co.uk. Wednesday, I had the pleasure of speaking with Chris Evans, press officer of Chelmsford City FC. He gave an excellent overview of the current squad and then talks a little about the history of the club. We also talk about getting to the grounds and some of the things to do in Chelmsford. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Here now is Mr. Chris Evans.
So, Chris, first of all, thank you very much for taking the time to take this phone call and answer my questions. What I'd like to know is just a couple of things about the team, about the town, ahead of this Saturday's match, which is a big match. So,
yeah, absolutely.
So maybe we can talk a little bit about the current team. For myself who doesn't know, and maybe for some of the fans, a couple of the stars or.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we've got quite a strong squad. It's not great in terms of numbers. When we get a couple of injuries, we certainly know about it. But the small number of players that we do have, they're all capable of holding down a regular first team place. And when they're all fit, we like to think we've got one of the best squads in the league, if not the best. So promotion certainly has been the aim all season. What with Braintree running away with it a little bit at the top now, it's looking less likely that we're going to achieve first place, although we're still going for it. The team itself, like I say, every player is capable of feeling justified in having a place in the starting 11. Going back for the goalkeeper, James Pullen, he's a regular. He's played in every league game that he's been available for this season, I think. He did have a brief suspension period, and I think he had one injury earlier in the season. But apart from that, he's been pretty solid. The fullbacks, particularly at right back, Ben Nunn, he's been almost ever present apart from a foot injury earlier in the season. He's a very good young player and one of the most improved players this season. And at left back, we've had various different names there during the course of the year, but Kurt Robinson, who's there at the moment, he's fairly settled in the number 3 shirt now. He's come in from a good pedigree as a youngster with Ipswich Town. I think he was finding places in Rushden and Diamonds team hard to come by, but they definitely rated him down there. He just wasn't getting in the team, so he's found himself to Chelmsford and doing very well. The centre-back pairings, there's not been many pairings. Again, they've been fairly settled. So Adam Tan and Sammy El Ant tend to have the shirt most of the times. Adam Tan had a bit of a cheek injury at the start of the season, which made him miss a couple of our big FA Cup matches. But he's got a wealth of experience for someone hovering around the 30 years of age bracket. And Sammy El Ant is, I think, he's mid-20s. He's played almost every game this season. So the defence is very, very solid. It's not kept as many clean sheets, perhaps, as last year's defence, but they're certainly capable of it, and particularly at home, where they've only conceded a handful of goals so far. Moving into midfield, can't go much further than mentioning the captain, David Rainford, in the centre. Whenever we go and play another team, if ever they pick out a player of ours who they particularly like to have on their team, it's usually Dave Rainford. He's been with us a few seasons now, very inspirational. He's a great leader, but he can certainly play a bit of football as well. He's sort of box to box. He likes to get involved in a bit of tackling towards his own goal, but he's also currently our top scorer. He takes a lot of penalties, but he also is capable of getting in where it hurts and putting a tackling away at a crucial moment. So he's in the centre of midfield. He's usually flanked either side by John Martin and Matt Locke. John Martin is in his 30s now, I believe. He's also got a lot of experience from clubs like Leyton Orient, some of the top non-league teams such as Stevenage when they were there, Grays Athletic when they were in their heyday. He does a lot of unseen work. He sits just behind the other midfielders and maybe puts in the tackles, makes little passes that people don't necessarily notice, but they do notice him when he's not playing. So he's had a little spell out injured, but he's back now and seems to have coincided with a run of form in the team. Matt Locke, he's been with Chelmsford since the start of last season. He actually moved across from the other side of the country in Bath where he was at university. He's come in, he's got a very good footballing head. He's quite versatile. He's played in a lot of different positions, but he seems to have found a home in midfield, quite often in the centre, but also out on the right sometimes as well, which has proved quite handy because of the fact that we've had a few winners injured recently. So he's either usually in the centre of midfield or on the right, but he plays in a lot of games. On the other flank, like I say, we've had a few injuries. Anthony Cook has been potentially one of the players of the season. He's out injured for the rest of the campaign, unfortunately, with a knee injury, which has given opportunities to some other players, such as Ricky Modeste and Takumi Aki. Ricky Modeste come through the youth and reserve teams. He's again another promising youngster. Long hair, a bit like Bob Marley. He's again one of the most improved players this season. He's got a lot of skill, which means that he can sometimes play up front as well. Takumi Aki is a bit more diminutive figure. You probably guess from the name he's from Japan, but he's enamoured himself to the fans quite quickly since joining at the start of the season. He missed a lot of last year through injury when he was at Newport County. I think he suffered an injury in the first couple of games, but last year he definitely impressed the Newport supporters in the short time he had there. He came to Chelmsford and made a quick impact. He's got a lot of skill, a lot of pace, very tricky. So he's one of the wingers contending for a place. And up front, we've got another few decent players there. We've got a signing Wayne Gray, who's made a reputation for himself with Southend United, Leyton Orient, Yeovil, Cambridge United. He's not necessarily someone who'll get you a hat-trick in every game, but he's a burly target man. Obviously, other people, the more poaching players, feed off of him. He wins a lot of headers, very strong, waving with a fair few goals himself. But he's arrived in the last month or so and has made a couple of man-of-the-match performances, and he's impressed the fans quite quickly. Something different in Rob Edmonds. Rob Edmonds he's in his early 20s. He's just making his way in the game after a spell in the US where he was doing some sports coaching and some university work. So Rob's about 6'8", 6'9", so teams need to be wary of him. He's got something slightly different. Strangely, his strength isn't actually in the air for someone so big, but he's got the old cliche is that he's got 2 good feet for a big man. He's started to find himself playing 90 minutes now. Fitness was a question mark over him when he first started playing because he wasn't quite used to this level. But now he's matured quite a lot and learned a lot off of the players he's been playing alongside. And just recently he's forged a bit of a partnership with Wayne Gray up front, that's been playing a lot more than 90 minutes. Also supporting those, possibly back on Saturday, will be Billy Britnell. He played a lot of the games he's been available for, but just recently, around 6 weeks ago, he'd had a nasty an injury in a game at Bromley, which kept him out for around 6 weeks. But he's a hard-working forward. He'll chase everything. He's also a good goal scorer as well. So he's got that to back that up. And so we've got a lot of decent players on the bench as well, ready to come in. And it makes picking the team quite difficult for the manager, Glenn Pennyfather.
Yeah, well, the team itself has been on an upward curve, right, for the past 2 or 3 seasons. As I can see, and last year, right, they made it to the playoffs and unfortunately lost, and so this year the same thing. It's definitely a tough team. I realize you have an ex-Fleet player, John Martin, right? Did you mention him?
Yeah, John Martin. Yes, he's a brilliant player.
He played for.
Like I said earlier, he does a lot of unseen work. He doesn't grab the headlines very often. I think he must have only scored about 2 or 3 goals for Chelmsford in the 1.5 seasons he's been here. But he's a very small player. He must be a nightmare to play against. He puts in his tackles, makes short passes, not necessarily the 40-yard defence-splitting passes, but short ones that keep the side knitted together in the centre of midfield. And he provides a decent contrast to some of the other midfielders we've got who are a little bit more creative. Some of the hard work he puts in unsettling the opposition's players and keeping possession, it brings out the best in the players around him who have perhaps got a bit more attacking flair. And he's definitely, I think every team needs a player like John Martin, particularly if you've got 3 central midfielders sometimes.
Yeah. Well, no doubt this Saturday's game is going to be a great game, and it's going to be a tough match. I mean, this won't be the last time I say it today when I talk to you, but definitely a tough match. But as I was saying before, so the team is on an upward curve, and I see that the coach, Pennyfeather, he's been here a few years. Has he been the only one, sort of, the architect of creating this team and building it up?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, he's been an important part of the team for around the last 5 years. A bit of background on the actual club itself, as well as the playing staff. Chelmsford used to play at a ground called New Riddle Street in Chelmsford, which was a good old-fashioned ground. But there's been, unfortunately, a history of mismanagement at the top, with people, possibly thankfully, not involved in the club anymore, but got the club in a lot of trouble whereby the ground had to be sold by the official receivers, leaving the club homeless. So around 1997, the club found itself without a home and had to move temporarily in with Malden Town, a local club, and then more recently with Billericay Town, where we spent about around 10 years in exile, just struggling to survive. So when the club returned to Chelmsford, to the ground we have now, Melbourne Stadium, in January 2006, the first season there was all about finding the supporters again, giving the supporters an opportunity to come watch Chelmsford and familiarise themselves. And there wasn't an awful lot of success in that first year, or first half of the season we were back. But we managed to bed in with a lot of locals. There were some very decent crowds to start with. The first game back in Chelmsford was rumoured to have around 5,700 people in it, although the official attendance was somewhat less than that because the capacity was officially 3,000. But since we come back from that, we had half a season under Craig Edwards as manager. But then at the end of that campaign, I think the realisation locally was that Chelmsford were back and hopefully looking to make another impact back on the county townspeople. And that was particularly noticed by a guy called Jeff King, who was very successful with Canby Island, around 20 miles away. Made some decent FA Cup runs with Canby, guided them up through the leagues into the top rung of non-league football. I think he was getting a bit frustrated with Canby not having necessarily the same backing as some of the teams that were up there as well. I think he was frustrated with the crowds, and I think he realised that Canby found their level at the top rung of non-league, and he was looking for a new challenge. He saw a lot more potential in Chelmsford, moved across to Chelmsford with Glenn Pennyfather as his assistant. First season in the Ryman Premier Division, which is a division below what we're playing in now. A lot of entertaining football, a lot of attacking football, not necessarily winning 1-0 every week, but maybe winning 5 or 6-0 one week and then losing frustratingly 3-2 the following week. So that didn't end in much more than a playoff failure, but we gradually built up and got out of that division around 2008 by winning the title and got to the level where we are now. Jeff King's first season as manager in the Blue Square South looked going according to plan around January of that year, when Chelsea were 9 points clear at the top and looking to cruise their way at the first time of asking into the Conference National. But that all fell apart, unfortunately. No one's ever been able to put their finger exactly why, but that 9-point lead disappeared, and Chelmsford ended up scraping into the playoffs and going out in the semi-finals. I think Jeff became a little bit frustrated then with football, would look for a bit of time out and handed the reins over to Glenn Pennyfather last season, which was his first season as outright manager. And Glenn again guided into the playoffs, which was an incredible achievement considering it was his first year as an actual manager in his own right. Got to the playoffs, didn't get any further than the semi-finals, but this year, again, we've made progress. Every year since we've arrived in Chelmsford, we've got a little bit. We've finished higher in the league the following each season that's gone past. And last year we finished third on goal difference from the team that was second. This year we are second as we speak. And I think Glenn will tell you that at least where he wants to finish. He's still got his eyes on that first place, and he's definitely managing to learn the ropes as a manager. He's been there as an assistant manager for a number of years now, and he knows the non-league game like nobody else. He's bedding in now as a manager in his own right, and he's looking to go into success as well.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Wow. Well, if just put Ebbsfleet aside, this is really a great story, and I like to hear that, hearing about a team coming back and then finding success and building on it, and you're on an upward curve, and it's a great story. Unfortunately, we have to battle on Saturday, but even with that, it's good to hear that. That's always good for football